Okay, welcome to Math 105, Wednesday of week 9. We're getting close to the end. We've already finished all the new topics, but when we are looking at expected value, there's a bunch of things we can still do. We have this week's activity, which I've had opened, but I closed it. Okay, so this would be a great thing to go over today. We could talk about the discussion forum in Moodle a bit, if that would help anybody, but I think it's straightforward. The homework is now all composed, so I want to glance at homework 9B and just sort of show everyone what's there, but it shouldn't be terribly surprising. This week, Paula has a very nice weekly worksheet that has an answer key, and she has a final exam review if you want to be doing that already, which has an answer key. So those are things we could look at, but maybe should wait till next week. Somebody sent me an email saying they really liked the optional videos for this week and last week. So if you've been neglecting those, you have a classmate's recommendation to do that. And a brave student volunteered to look at all of the achievements and see how easy it is to get a bunch of check marks if you've been neglecting those. There was also a question a moment ago about the practice final and how many problems will really be on the final. And I'm not sure. I've written about 50 problems, but that's too many. So we need to make it so that randomly, sometimes you get this one and sometimes you get that one in a certain spot. And any one final won't have too many, even though you have to be prepared for everything. So we can talk about that today and write on this and say, oh, well, let's combine whatever, the first three. So you only see one of those each time you load the page or something like that. And then a last announcement is people before class began in the study session. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen, am I? Blah, sorry. Before class began in the study session, had more than one person couldn't remember where old quizzes were. So quiz 7 was giving me feedback about how your second midterm went, reporting back about which problems you needed to work on the most. If you haven't done that, then please get that done. And then week 8 was these 2 red questions and describe an example that was perhaps buried too much in a after class email. So if you haven't done the week 8 quiz, then that's what it is, these red questions right there, copied from the email. Okay, the stuff I thought I was sharing but wasn't. So the final, if we look at the final, there's a bunch of problems. Right? They stop being numbered at 47, and I just have my notes about what other things I should make. So this kind of thing. These ones down here don't randomly generate yet. That's just ones that I need to make sometime. There's our weekly activity. There's the homework 9B that we should scroll through. And then, where is it? Here was our to-do list with the activity, the discussion forum, homework is all ready. And then Paula had both a weekly worksheet that was great for week 9 and some final exam review. So I'm sorry I wasn't sharing my screen all before. Okay, anyone care what we start with, or should we just pick something and go?
Maybe the new part B.
Part B, okay. So homework 9, part B. I'm gonna make this a little taller. I'm not looking at a Jamboard. So we start with 4 problems that are just about reading charts again. And that's a very important part of the probability section. So here's a chart about how many credit cards people own and whether they're male or female. I took this actually from the Math 105 lead teachers preparation stuff. I don't know if these numbers actually came from a real life study or not. In any case, we will just pretend they're accurate. So we're asking you 4 questions, and the interesting ones are 3 and 4. If one person in the group has 0 credit cards, what's the probability that person is female? And then the opposite. If for sure you're picking someone who is female, then what's the probability that the person has 0 credit cards? So reading these, they're sort of going in the opposite direction, right to left or left to right. It's the idea that there's conditional probability. And depending on which condition you pick first, then the probability that both are true will change. Then for the next things, we have problems 5 and 6 is about a charity. They're holding a raffle and selling 200 tickets. The tickets cost $5 each, and the winner gets 400. What's the expected value? So you either win or you lose. And then what's the probability that happens? And then add them up to get the product. Then next part, if there were 3 winning tickets, what would be the expected value? Number 7, we fill in the table for you a little bit. It's more complicated because we have 3 rows instead of just 2. There's a certain bond that has predictions. It goes down, or it goes up a little, or it goes up a lot. And we tell you the probability for those 3 outcomes. And then you're going to multiply across and add them up. So that's not hard. But then you have to have it with a blank table. So again, kids and coins, they're playing this game. The first kid gets a point when either coin lands head. So for head, 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 tails, and tail heads, kid 1 will win. The other kid only gets a point when both coins land tails. So he wins in this 4th row. And obviously he needs to earn more than 1 point since he only wins 1/4 of the time. So how many points should he get to make this a fair game? What's the expected value going to be if the game is fair? Any ideas or guesses?
I'm just kind of guessing. I'm not sure, but would it be 3 since the other kid has 3 chances out of 4 to get a point?
He might want to get 3 points, but when you add everything up at the end, you probably don't want it to be 3. So you have the right thinking, but that's the right answer to the wrong question. You're going to add these up. You want it to be 0. So that overall no one is getting points or losing points. Very similarly, there's a club that's planning a 3-day outdoor fundraising event. The cost to host the event is $10,000, but every day that it rains, they don't get any income. So what's the chance that there's 1, 2, or 3 rainy days, and how much would they get for their entire fundraising event if that's actually what happens? And then add a product column up, and then what do you think they might actually get for their fundraiser? And then another version of the food cart problem we did last time. So we can do any of these. I'll just change the numbers if that's what people want to do first. Should we do one of the expected value ones? We didn't get very many example problems done last time.
I'd like to see 8.
We want to see 8. Okay, let's see 8. So I'm going to shrink it a little bit so that I can copy and paste it better.
One thing about 8 I'm not sure about is how do I assign a numerical value to several points?
Okay, let's see. So let's change the numbers first, make it so that one kid gets, instead of a point, 2 points. So for heads, he'll get 2 points. For heads, tails, he gets 2 points, and for tails, heads, he gets 2 points. The tails, we don't know. That's what we're solving for. That's the several points. We don't know what goes there. We do know that the probability for each is the same, 1/4, 0.25. So if we multiply across, 2 times 0.25 is 0.5, and that happens 3 times. And then this is going to be something. Let's be a little more like an algebra person, and instead of a question mark, write a y. So this is going to be y times 0.25. To be a fair game, then I want it to be true that when I add up everything, it gets to be 0. No one comes out ahead or behind. So this much is 1.5 that's positive. So that means that much has to be negative 1.5 to balance out. So overall, they add up to 0. So what do I put in for y to make that work? Maybe you can just look at it and see it. If not, we'll just write it out. Y times 0.25 equals negative 1.5. To get y by itself, we would divide both sides by 0.25. So we get an answer of negative 6. Does it make sense that the second person gets 6 points when they win?
It makes sense, but the negative confuses me.
Oh, okay. The negative is there because we decided in how we wrote things that kid 1 winning is positive. This is points for kid number 1. And since it's a game that when one wins, the other loses, then that means that the second kid, when he wins, is getting sort of negative points.
Yeah, another way to think of that is points for kid number 1 and points against kid number 1. Okay.
There are plenty of people that when they set this up would do something different. If you wanted, you could set this up where, so let me go to the next page. Perhaps in your mind, it makes more sense to have, since we're talking about the second kid, let's make the first kid the negative ones. And then these would be negative. This would be a negative 0.5. We'd want a positive.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me too, yeah.
And then this would be positive. And since we're sort of focused on the other kid, the second kid, we'll make him the positive situation. So it doesn't matter, it works out either way. Should we do one that's similar to the fundraiser? I think we should.
I'd love that.
Okay, not too wide. Okay. So let's change the numbers that the cost to host the event is 20,000. And every day that has good weather, they earn 10,000. And there's a 30% chance of rain. Sound good so far? So a local is planning a 3-day outdoor fun event. To them is 20. So no matter which we have, there's going to be a minus 20,000 in there. Every day that has good weather, they get 10,000 of income. So if there's 0 rainy days, how much income do they get?
30,000.
30. Right? If there's 1 rainy day, they get 20,000. If there's 2 rainy days, they get 10,000. And if there's 3 rainy days, they don't get any income. So the overall value for the first outcome is a terrible negative 20,000. If there's 2 rainy days, they still lose money. If there's 3 rainy days, then they break even. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 rainy day, they break even. And only when there's 0 rainy days do they make money. Everyone with me so far? The numbers I picked when changing it made it really tough on this group. What's the chance that there is 1 rainy day? We're assuming the rainy days are independent events. So it's just a plain 30%. Okay, now it gets a little tricky. Remember how probability works. What's the chance it rains 1 day and another day?
Is it 0.15?
Well, let me write in different colors. So 2 rainy days. It could be that it rains and then it no rains and then it rains. Or it could be that it rains and then it doesn't rain. Or it could be that it doesn't rain and then it rains twice. If I was to fill out the whole table, how many different ways could I have yes or no for 3 different situations? Oh, I might have even tricked myself with this. let's just back up and make the whole table, because I think I tried to be smarter than I was. So for the first day, there's 2 things. The second day, there's 2 things. The third day, there's 2 things. So 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. We're going to have 8 different things. You could have rain, 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 no rain, 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 no rain. Then we could have rain, no rain, no rain, no rain, rain, no rain, no rain, rain, and rain. No rain, no rain and rain, no rain. No rain at all. Which one am I missing?
Would it be rain, rain, rain?
We have a rain, rain, rain. Oh, that's all of them. That's 8. I'm trying to make 9, but there's only 8. Okay, so how many had one rainy day? So that would be that one, or that one, or that one. So 3 out of 8. How many have 2 rainy days? That would be that one, or that one, or that one. So that's also 3 out of 8. Into decimals. And then what's the chance that there's 3 rainy days? That's just that one. So 1 out of 8. And 0 rainy days is also 1 out of 8. Okay, now if I multiply everything together, the 20,000, that's negative, and a 0.125. So negative 2,500. The 10,000 and the 0.375. 3,750. That's also negative. 0 times anything stays 0. And then 10 times the 0.125 is 1,250.
Is there maybe any way to indicate which numbers we're multiplying just for reference when we're looking through the Jamboard?
What color do I have? Blue.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
I don't want to try and do that on all 4 rows. It will look too crowded. But that times that. Okay,
That
this is
works.
much more complicated than I intended. The good news is that on the actual homework, this rain outcome table will be the same. You don't have to redo that.
So my confusion is, what does the 30% possibility of rain on each of the 3 days?
Oh, no, I forgot that completely. Okay, we did a 50%, didn't we? We said they were equally likely. Okay. I think I have to keep it that way on your real homework too, so you can use this table. We wanted rain and not rain to be Otherwise, the math gets more than we've done. Let me change that real quick so that on your real homework, it's the same thing, the same rain table. Okay, 50%. So copy my rain table. I'm not trying to make that the hard part. I'm just trying to make just an expected value problem. Okay, do we have an do we have an easier one? Where is it? There it is. Do we do the food cart one again? Should we do the bond fund one?
Let's do the food cart one.
Food cart one? Okay, I'm just going to copy this one. I can always make up new numbers for the actual homework. So don't start this right away because the real one will have different numbers. Okay, the table isn't given to you, but it's going to have the same thing. Outcome, a numeric value, the probability, and the product. Outcome. Okay, I've changed the real number 10 for people who want to rush ahead. But for these numbers, let's keep going. So you could lose a lot. You could have a small gain, a medium gain, big gain, or the biggest gain. Doesn't really matter what you're labeling them. The point of this column is to make sure that you're not jumping straight to numbers. That you're realizing there are 5 different things that can happen. Okay, if she does lose a lot, she loses 5,000. If she gains a bit, then she gets 15,000. Even better, she could gain 25,000. Better still, she could gain 30,000. And best of all, she could get 40,000. This was a 40%, so 0.4, then a 20%, another 20%, 10%, and another 10%. So we multiply across.
Would it be negative 2,000 or would it be positive?
I forgot. Thank you. And then as the last step, we add everything up. And we get whatever, 5 plus 1. So 13,000 if I did this right. Are the expected value ones starting to make sense? We didn't do them in easy to hard order. We did the hardest one just a moment ago. That was harder than I intended it to be. Okay, I'm going to be done with the weekly homework for now. And our next thing I wanted to do was talk about achievements, demonstrate that you might have more points than you think. And there's definitely not Cassie here that's going to help me with things. So, are you ready? Definitely not Cassie?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to look at this list of achievements, and everything you see that you have done that doesn't already have check marks, I clicked go, right? So that some of these will have check marks on them. So let me get up to the definitely not Cassie one. Okay, tell me all the ones that you've done that you haven't gotten checked off. Do you need the font bigger, by the way?
No, it's fine like that. I don't think I've done any of the first ones.
Any of the orange or yellows?
Nope.
Okay. The math problem appears or translating real life to paper. This group, I thought we would do more of the weekly activities, but we've actually not talked about many of them in class. So that didn't turn out to be a good source of things.
Yeah, I haven't done any of those either.
Okay, send me neatly written work. I think you've done that more than once.
Yes.
How many times have you sent me with homeworks or quizzes, pictures of your work?
I think like 3 times.
3 times. Okay, so let's check off. So a second meet and a third. Okay, how about the communicate with others section?
No, I don't think so.
Using resources in blue.
No.
Okay. Things for taking a test in purple. Did you get a 70% on the other midterm?
Yes.
Okay. There's that. Checked off. Okay. Did you get more than 66 on any practice final?
I did like no, because the midterms I did the practice, but I haven't done like the
Oh, it's not a practice final yet. Midterms. Okay. Did you schedule when to take some practice tests?
No,
No, you just did it.
I did.
Have you attended 14 or more classes or turned in 8 homeworks on time?
I think I've attended all the classes that we've had. So.
More than 14. Okay. So now if I control F5. So now those things are checked off more. We didn't add a lot, but we added some. So you have 9 achievements, and every 8 reduces the number of required quizzes by 1. So let's see if we can find 7 more that are quick for you to do. So you could ask a question during class. That's easy. Or maybe even do something on the board. You haven't been to any study sessions yet?
I went to the first one.
First one? Well, then we should check that off. You could study for your final with somebody. You could talk about a video with somebody. This one isn't really quick, but it's not that long to read a chapter of a book and summarize it. The playgrounds aren't terribly quick. Find an example of our math in the news. That one is not hard. Work with a classmate, maybe. Teach a friend or a stranger about a math problem, or teach a friend about a non-class math topic. Unless you're living by yourself and very quarantined, then you can probably do that. Finding a new video about our stuff is very easy. Tutoring, that's easy, but it's not everyone's thing. Report on being more capable at getting help when it's needed. Have you gotten unstuck this term?
I'm sorry, did you ask a question?
Yeah, have you
No.
gotten unstuck this term on something?
Yes. When we I think it was last midterm, you asked us to tell you which one we kind of struggled on. And I
that. So. The representational fluency quiz is a very quick thing. That's one thing that could be a 7. And again, I'm pretty sure, given your previous tests, that you'll get 66 on a practice final, maybe even your first one. So if you do a few more, then you probably could have 16 achievements without too much work. And that would mean that the number of quizzes you need is down by 2.
Thank you.
How about colors? We want colors with 3 or more. So, oops, we need to pick you out of this list again. So you have 3 greens. You have 1 blue, so maybe blue is something to get 2 more of. You have 2 purples, so maybe purple is one to get a 3rd one, and again, that's probably trivial. And you have 3 browns already. So assuming that you take a practice final and get 2/3, you're automatically going to have 3 colors with 3 or more, right? Yes, green, purple, and brown. So that means that the number of homeworks you need goes down by 6, and the number of quizzes you need, or discussions you need, goes down by 3.
Yay.
Okay, anyone else want to take a turn?
You can do mine.
Yeah, okay, one moment. Let me get one that is not your actual one ready. Okay, so now if I reload it, there should be a definitely not Katie. So first, just tell me which ones I need to fill in because you haven't told me yet. And then we'll go through and look at count some colors.
I definitely think I've asked the question during class.
Yes, I know.
What else have I done? I just saw it. For both midterms, I got above a 90%.
Okay, so I'm gonna go down to purple. Oh, okay. Any of the blue ones we just skipped over? Used any videos other than the ones on the website already? Gotten unstuck, worked with a tutor.
I have not.
Have you scheduled when to take practice tests?
I have, but I haven't followed through with it, so I don't know if that counts.
I'll leave that up to you.
I did turn in 8 homework assignments on time. At least I hope.
Looks like to me you have in my records.
Nice.
And you've been to 14 classes?
Yes.
Two. Okay, so now if I do hard reload, definitely not Katie. So it says you've only done 9. That seems low. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess it is 9. So if you wanted to do another 7, get up to 16, so that you need fewer quizzes. Or you could just catch up on the quizzes you're missing. Again, a lot of people kind of let these 2 quizzes slip through the cracks, so do those if you need them. And then for colors, you have pink all 3. You have 1 in green. You get 2 other greens if you wanted. Purple, you have 3 already. And if you schedule one to take some practice finals, then that's pretty easy to get 3 in brown. So 1, 2, maybe 3, maybe 4. So you could have 8 fewer homeworks needed and 4 fewer discussions.
Cool.
Remember for everybody that you need 14 to not have a minus. So we just saw 2 people that without really trying at all are up to 9. And it should be true that 14 is pretty much automatic, that if you are just doing all the things that a student with good habit does, it is admittedly harder remote learning than when you see each other in class all the time. But this isn't supposed to be a chore. This part is just supposed to be recognizing the work that you put in anyway. You don't get minus. And I think I shared before the story of that I grew up in a family that had high expectations. You're supposed to get good grades in school and stuff, but made a point to celebrate all of them. That when a kid got a good report card, when a parent got a raise, something like that, then we went out to dinner or went to the ice cream shop or something like that. And I was surprised when I got to know my wife's family better. They also had high expectations, but they never celebrated them. It was either like a grunt or a negative consequence if you didn't make it. And that's no good. So we need to celebrate all the things you do well. So yes, some of these are sort of small and stupid, but it's better than neglecting them and not saying, yay, get a check mark when you do them. That's the theory. Anything else about achievements? Just send me an email or put something in Zoom chat if you've done achievements and need them to get checked. I'm going to close that. Should we talk about the final next? Um, let's do that. So assuming that actually, let me back up to the top. Is all of this right? Is it true on your final that calculators are allowed? Yes, definitely. Your own notes are allowed? Yes. The online formula page is allowed? Yes. Looking at the textbook class website and other websites is not allowed. I think you're supposed to be able to look at the class website. That sound good to everybody? And the textbook should be allowed too. So let me change that. Okay, looking at the class textbook and website is allowed. Looking at other websites is not allowed. So if there's something you like from other websites, you have something from Khan Academy or something that you love, then get that into your notes so that you have access to it. And it's not just that you start with this is a taking test by yourself. So it's not like the midterms where half of it is group work. So get everything organized into your own useful notes. Whoops, why do we have that repeated? There is no time limit, that is still true. Okay, all of my copying and pasting from midterms is now fixed up. So this is just going to be a normal test. Everyone will get their own version of the random numbers, and the problems will be slightly different, but we need to make that fair. That's our chore now. You'll work on it by yourself, and when you're done, send me photos of all of your scratch work in email or on a Google Drive or however is easiest for you. Then after we're done, we'll meet for a brief oral exam, and I will ask you to fix things or comment about things or something. And 40 problems, I'm not sure. Let me take that and just put some question marks there. I would like it to be about 40 problems, but I'm not going to promise that's the number. Okay, of the problem-solving problems, which ones should we group up so that you're randomly shown some of them, but not all of them? I'm going to move this to the Jamboard. I don't want to have 9 different problems on the final be problem solving. I want there to be, what, 3 or 4? So we need to patch these together, make 3 or 4 groups and see which ones come out of each group. These two look very similar. I don't think we need to see both of those. Other people talk. What should we do? Some of them we can just axe completely too if they're not as important as others. For example, number 6 is just multiplying 2 numbers, right? This one and that one. I'm not sure that's worth your time. No one's talking. I can do this by myself outside of class time if you don't want to.
So we're choosing which one to keep?
Yeah, which ones to keep, which ones like these, you should probably see one or the other, but not both.
Uh-huh. I don't know if it really matters on those two. Looking at 4 and 5.
I don't like 9.
What's that?
9 is definitely more work than the others. Should we just
Oh, right.
add
We can
9?
eliminate that one.
Get rid of 9 because it's too
No.
hard and 6 because it's too easy.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. 6, if it's easy, can stay.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't remember how to do either one of those. I'd have to go back and review it. So for 4
I
and
think
5.
7 can go.
7 can go. Finding 2 margins and dividing by them. So these two are similar. They're both percent change. This is sort of its own thing. So if we get rid of 7, so now we have 4 problems. Right. Either 1 or 2, definitely 3, either 4 or 5, and definitely 8. That seems like it could work. I might invent different versions of things. I'm not going to promise this is all there is. but I think that's a good start. Okay, let's keep going. The mortgage ones, we sort of have to keep at least a part of it because that was an important part of what we did. The question is, if we do 13 and 14, kind of the last parts of it, then should we give other students a version without those two, but something else instead? Or should we just give everyone 10 to 14?
I kind of like keeping it all uniform.
Yeah, I feel like it would confuse me just to have the last two.
You can't do the last two without the earlier stuff anyway. But somebody could get 10 through 12 and then an alternate thing instead of 13 and 14.
Mm. I don't know. I think I'd get confused.
Okay, we don't want to confuse. 15 is, I don't think I have to give you that one again. That was just a bunch of subtraction and little stuff. We definitely want at least these 4. Does it help you to plan ahead?
I like it.
So this isn't extra work. The fact that you get more points and it helps you plan ahead is okay. The 2-step ones, we should probably give you one, but not both of them. That kind of thing. If some students get the mean and some students get the median, is that going to seem unfair? Are you going to feel like you got the harder version if you get one or the other?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we should give everyone both to be fair. Or we could say that there's sort of 2 pairs of hard and easy, right? We have the easier ones are listing things and picking the middle and doing biggest minus smallest. And the harder ones are adding them up and dividing by how many and doing that standard deviation chart. So we could make it where everyone gets 1 green and 1 red, but not 2 greens or 2 reds.
I'm up for whatever. I like all of them.
You like all of them? They are all good problems. Since there's no time limit on the test, we don't necessarily have to make it as small as possible. This would be very different if you had a 110-minute class in a normal term.
I feel like if we do it like that, the standard deviation takes way more longer than finding the mean.
It does.
So like, it's even when it comes to like one person gets like a hard and an easy, but like compared to like both hards, one's definitely easier than the other.
We should just give everyone all 4. Okay. Do we want both kinds of frequency tables? Or are the ones that have qualities across the top and the bottom what we're calling contingency tables? Are those sufficient? Can we get rid of the plain frequency tables?
I like 34 more than 31 just because it's more of a challenge, I guess, than just like a solid frequency table where you just have dogs, cats, fish, lizards.
Mhm.
I have no partiality. I'm very visual, so they're both good.
There's nothing that 31 to 33 tests that 34 doesn't also test. So
are you saying we could get rid of 3 problems and just keep 1?
Yeah. So Axel 3. You're going to get more contingency coming up anyway, because when we have homework, where is it? That's no, not that one. B. No, 8A. Right, we have contingency tables happening with our probability problems also. So there will be more than one contingency table on the test. Unless I can be really clever and try and write problems for both things about it. Maybe I can. Okay, comparing histograms to see which is the greatest standard deviation. Everyone felt comfortable with that, or were there people that still didn't like that after some practice tests?
I like the two histograms. I think it's useful.
Yeah, it is, right? In real life, you're never going to actually calculate a standard deviation unless that's part of your job. But to look at data sets and say, the school district is telling me this thing about test scores, but this is pretty meaningless. The data is all over the place, then that's a useful skill. Okay, probability and odds. We could have some people find probability and some people find odds, or we could make everyone find both.
I want to axe probability all the way across the board.
I'm thinking once you found one, you're sort of halfway to finding the other. So might as well just ask you both and get you 2 points. We don't really need one with dice. If we're doing probability with a table, then everything is counted for you. Is the problem with number 37 that you're having to count fiddly things on the table? On the chart thing?
No, I was getting probability mixed up with permutation.
Okay, so 37's okay. $39 I want to do on the board some today. We didn't do a finished example problem of that. So here's the permutation ones. They don't have randomness programmed for them yet. So I can't really ask you about those. Okay, well, thank you for your input. I'll see if I can get the final exam trimmed to about 40 problems, because you have other things to do that week than just take a giant math final, right? Any other questions about the final while we're looking at it?
Will we still have like some extra questions, like besides the 40 main questions? Just
Yes,
so
so
if,
it will still be true that it says at the top, your best so many problems will count. And the number of problems on the test is going to be 2 or 3 more than that.
okay, cool.
So if you really hate whatever n permutation problems, then you can skip that one problem.
Other question, what if we get like all of the questions, like let's say we get all the questions right, like do we get extra credit on it, or would it just be, oh hey, good job for you for getting those extra problems correct?
Except for the fact that there is an achievement for getting 100% on a test. That might be useful for achievement criteria, either as numbers of achievements or colors, then it doesn't help you. It doesn't mean it's not nice, because you might want me to write a letter of recommendation for a job someday, and I'll say you aced the final, but as far as your grade, then no, it doesn't affect them.
Okay, thank you.
I have one final question. I was just curious if we were going to have like a time to do practice finals, like we had time to do the practice midterms.
I will try and finish up changing everything here into nice randomized problems like the ones above as soon as I can. And then you can start practice finals. Do you want to spend some class time next week doing a work by yourself a bit and then compare with classmates on a practice final?
Yes.
Yeah, I like the collaboration.
Okay. So I will assume that we're doing that. Are we doing that both days next week? Minimize how much I lecture and do example problems, and it's more working together.
I personally think that would be awesome just because it gives us more time to just like have a set time to work with each other. Because, you know, sometimes people are like going off on their doing their own thing. So having a set time would be really awesome.
That is true, especially when it's now getting a little sunnier and warmer. I'm not sure how it will stay that next week, but having planned times to work together is good. You've seen me do lots of things already. You have recordings of them. I can make more recordings. Last term, when I was teaching Math 25, I spent a lot of the last few weeks of the term. Somebody said, can you do a quick Zoom video or YouTube video of, you know, whatever, this problem? And I said, sure. So if there's a certain problem that is your nemesis, you can send me an email. You can use the forum, the Get Help forum, which everyone might want to subscribe to now that we're done with new material. So remember that in the Get Help forum, you can click on the gear and subscribe to it, and you'll get a little bit more email, but it's not the busiest thing, right? We're getting 1 a week, 2 a week. So we'll get more, but that's a good place to ask me questions because other people will have the same question you do, right? It is never true in a math class that you're the only person with that question. So you have plenty of ways to watch me do things other than me lecturing in class time. So I will, if you send me problems, then I might start next week's classes doing them, right? Saying, hey, somebody said they wanted help with this one. I bet lots of people do. I'm going to do it before we start our practice test, but otherwise I will just do that. So I will send everyone a PDF version of a test like we did for the midterms. So you'll have the same final to be working on.
And is that going to be the same thing? We can click on something at the bottom and it'll give us a new one with random numbers?
Yes, yes. But again, just like the midterm, I have to, you know, breakfast time that day, send out the official one we will all use together. Otherwise, you can't collaborate because your numbers won't match. Right? We had 2 people that for the second midterm accidentally did a completely random one rather than the one I sent out to everyone. And that worked for letting them know what they needed to study, but they couldn't be part of the group work in the second half because their problems were different. But that does bring up the next thing I was going to ask. So if you are somebody that wants to do the official one that I send out a PDF, and we all have the same versions before 2 o'clock on Monday, so that you get more of it done, then you should be in a group for the second half with other people like that. Does that make sense? The people that start cold at 2 o'clock and haven't looked at it yet will wind up working together. And the people that have done half of it before 2 o'clock and just finish things up, they should work together. So if you want to be in that second group, if you actually have enough time next week, that if I sent out the PDF version, you would work on it for an hour before class, then share that in chat right now so that I can know how many people are in that kind of group, if we have enough of you to make a study group. Does that make sense as a question?
Is that if you complete everything? All the questions, touch me?
That would be if I send out the file Sunday night or Monday morning, how many people would want to work on it before we actually start class at 2 o'clock on Monday?
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because some people, it's frustrating that you don't have time to get everything attempted before the group work starts. And other people are like, well, no, I'm just going to practice some problems. That's what I'm here for. If I don't get to all of them, that's not a problem. Okay, so both things can happen. And now we know what to do next week. Okay, I want to look at this problem. More expected value. And you will see that this is actually going to move to the next slide because we won't have room to write it, but that's okay. The student's about to take a final. Her grades so far in the class are listed below. What percent does she need to get on the final if she wants a 78% overall in the class? So familiar situation, and we're using expected value, but it's going to be kind of backwards at the end. So we talked ourselves through this Monday, but we didn't actually finish. I wanted to give you the chance to try it on your own first before we did them all the way through together. So I'm going to multiply across each thing. And remember that for the score, it helps to just think of it as a value, not as a percent. So we're going to ignore the percent symbols in the score column. Just think of it as like points or something like that. Because if you have percents and percents, you might wind up doing rip-lop twice, and then you would confuse yourself. Everyone okay with my setup? So I have 71 times 0.16, which gives me 11.36. Somebody else be working with me in case I hit things wrong on the calculator. 81 times 0.26 gives me 21.06. 51 times 0.15 is 7.65. 62 times 0.16, 9.92. So I have multiplied across 4 times. I can't multiply this last thing. I'm going to be a good math person, and instead of question marks, make that a y. So y times 0.27 is going to be something, but I don't know what box is. Right? What I do know is that all of these together should sum to 78, because that's her goal. Right? 78, 78. Okay, what can I find next?
We can add up the numbers that we have and then figure out what the difference between that is and 78.
Okay. So if I did things right, then these 4 added up to 49.99. So that means that in the box, we need to be 28.01. Okay, now I have an equation that I know how to solve. Y times 0.27 is 28.01. I'm going to divide both sides by 0.27 to get y by itself. And we get 103.7. Our friend is in trouble. She has to score 103 on her final in order to get the overall grade she wants. Is that surprising, looking now at these numbers?
Where did you get the 2801 from?
I took the 78 and then I subtracted from it these four added up. Because if all of these add up to 78, then I say, how close did we get to 78? And then 78 minus that is what we need to finish up.
Okay, so you added up all these numbers here. Okay, and then
Added up
subtract.
the,
I see. Okay, and then subtracted 78. Okay, thank you.
she'd love to get a 78. Has she gotten a 78 on anything so far?
Homework.
Only the homework, and not much above 78. So the homework compensates a little bit for her other things, but not much. She really was counting on the final to bring her grade up, but it's not going to happen. Should we do another one like this? I'm thinking we should. We can't really do this part yet about how many she needs to get right, because this was one of the randomly generated ones that didn't work. Okay, so here we have one that should be much happier of an outcome. This student, again, for some reason, the random number picked 78 as his goal. But now we have a much easier time getting there, right? These two are above 78 already. This one was close, only midterm 2 did this student well. So we'll do the same thing. Feel free to work ahead of me if you want. So a 96 times 0.16 is 15.36. 81 times 0.26 is 21.06. Should I put my little comment in green that these aren't percents for these numbers?
Yes,
Yes, okay.
thank you.
Okay. Where am I? 76 times 0.16, 12.16. And 50 times 0.17 is 8.5. So those four together, I'll do it slightly differently this time. Are 57.08. Holler if my math has a mistake. So this number is 78 minus the 57.08. Which is 20.92. And then once that's done, all of them are going to sum to 78. Because we forced it to. Is that a clearer way of writing it?
That's good.
Okay, so then finally at the end, oops, pencil. I have a y here. Y times my 0.25. Everyone see where the 0.25 is coming from? And whatever that is, 83.68. So about 84. This might be a case to round up no matter what. As if we round down, he won't quite get the score he wants. So because that was a fair amount of work, and your teacher is somewhat nice, then you get a really easy one to follow it up. You have 30 problems, each is worth a point. How many problems do you need to get correct? We're just asking what is the answer we had before, 84% of 30. So about 25 problems.
Again, isn't this one where you want to round up?
Yeah. So I'm going to write 25.2 and say to be safe, 23 problems needed.
Wouldn't it be 26?
Well, 26, I'm sorry. Someone sent me something in Zoom chat and distracted me. Yes, 26, rounding up. I fixated on the 2 for some reason. Thank you for fixing it. Everyone feeling more comfortable with this pair of problems now? It's about as hard as I can make expected value, and it's also about as useful as I can make expected value, because students ask this all the time. What do I have to get on the final? Any other questions about this while we're looking at it? Yeah. Okay, so there's two other things I would like to do then today. One of them is in the study skills to talk about what is it? Here we go. This one. So it is true that it would really be nice at the end of week 10 in our Moodle forum. The last forum is feedback about the class. So even if you are someone that normally attends a study group, instead of doing the Moodle forums to count as your weekly discussion, then this will just help me be a better teacher and help everyone who works on 105 make it a better class. So you will give that kind of feedback later, please. But a piece of feedback I wanted to ask now is about this one, because I want to make sure it's not getting to be too late for anyone. At the start of any college class, it will feel like the instructor is like the main character of the story, right? This teacher is in front of the room, they're dancing around, writing on the board, they're telling you what you need to do. It really seems like this is their story and you are just a side character. Well, that should be, this is natural, not naturally. But anyway, that should change. In any college class, sometime during the term, it should become your story. You are the main character. You are the one learning this material. You are the one growing. And the instructor becomes just the side character, another resource that you use, like a textbook or a website or something else. And the two things I've noticed teaching at LCC for so long are that the students who pass the class will be the ones that, to be sure, to be safe, if you're working in the study group most weeks, you always pass the class. And once this changes and you become the main character in your class story and the teacher becomes just a resource, a side character, then you're probably going to pass the class too. So if there's anyone that hasn't had this change yet and you're still feeling like a side character, let me know, maybe privately if it's embarrassing to say in public. And when this has happened for you, tell me when it happened. Was it maybe when we did the first midterm together? Was it some other time in the term? The more I can be intentional about helping this happen for people, then the more successful students will be. So anyone have any short stories to share about when they became the main character in Math 105? Okay, tell us, Carolyn.
Can you guys hear me? I'm in my jammies, so I don't have the camera on.
I can hear you.
Okay, sweet. For me, I really had a huge amount of progress pretty recently when you went over standard deviation again with us. I think it was during the midterm. And I've been through like 3 math classes where they tried to teach me standard deviation, and I just never grasped it conceptually. And it finally clicked for me when you explained that it just literally means to deviate from the standard, like from the average, and finally it all made sense. And I feel like I made a huge amount of progress and actually became excited about learning. So that was really, really a huge shift for me, honestly. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't always notice these things unless the students tell me. So thank you, Carolyn, for sharing.
Of course, happy to share.
Someone else, when did you become the main character?
I think I became the main character when I realized your course is tailored to the student and not just convenience. So it's really more focused on what we benefit from it, and the way you set it up is just confidence boosting in a way, like the achievements.
Thank you, Mickey. Somebody else?
Could I go?
Sure.
When did you become the main character in your Math 101 class? I think that happened for me when I really started to like go after and attack the achievements. In the beginning of the term, I didn't really pay much attention to the achievements because, you know, there weren't like set due dates for them, and it was just something I felt like I could, you know, push back a little bit. But then once I really started, you know, trying to check off those achievements, it kind of felt like I became more just like aware of the class and aware of how I'm doing in it, and you know, more participation. That kind of felt like me becoming the main character of the story.
Okay, thank you, Henry. We also have the week 9 activity to do, so if someone else wants to share, they could. Otherwise, I'll go on and do the next thing. Okay, so we haven't done all of the activities each week. Some of them had answer keys and were great for just being things that you did by yourself at home and could double check your work, get extra practice. But this one didn't have an answer key, and so I thought we should do it together. So we're looking again at contingency tables. This one is a realistic but annoying one. According to the latest census, the population was a certain amount. A little more than half the population of the US is female and the rest is male. The census doesn't pick anything but those two categories. And although the census doesn't ask about handedness, there are other studies that estimate 11.8% of males are left-handed and 9.6% of females are. So can we fill out this table? So let's set that up on a new slide. How would we start doing that? We have enough information, but it's not given to us in a nice straightforward way.
We have to figure out what 58.8% is and what the other percent is. So 328,239,523 times 0.508.
Okay, so this box right here, okay, this one we can get first. Eli is saying take 0.508 and multiply that by the 328,239,523. That's actually not the easiest box to get, but it is the box most people would get first. So I'm getting 166,745,678. Okay, what's next?
Now we could figure out of those what are right and left-handed. So multiply that by 0.096.
Okay, so that box is 0.096 times the 166,745,678. And I'm getting 16,585. What next?
Can you track the 166 million minus the 16?
Yeah, so this one minus that one gives me that one. And at this point, I'm going to stop using the Jamboard. This isn't the most efficient way to do this. So I have this all set up as a spreadsheet. And what I actually did myself was to say that this is 0.508. And then this number, as we saw, would be 0.096 times that. Oops, times. And then this number is going to be, as you said, this one minus that one. So these are just the percentages. And then on this table, I just said everything. I'm going to take the table above and multiply it by the, by the number without taking it. Oops, and I need to go with dollar signs because it's spreadsheet. So we got the same things we did a moment ago, but I have the top table, that's just the percentages, and the bottom table, that's the numbers. For the men, the percentage that are men is going to be 1 minus the percentage that are women. And how many men are left-handed? That was 11.8. So just like before, we're going to multiply the 0.118 by only the men portion. And then this one minus that one. And I can copy everything else over. So here is our total, the same as that. And we have the numbers for how many are female and male and how many are right-handed and left-handed. Save some time. So I will take that and stick it here so we have our complete record. Okay, continuing. Problem 2. We're going to get a little more familiar with this weird code. I haven't written things like P parenthesis L line M much. That's something that we looked at in the book. It was the shorthand for conditional probability. And you might never see it again, but it's appropriate, having studied this, that we look at the formal language just in case you do run across it on your job or something. And this means the probability of being left-handed given, that's up and down line means given or assuming or knowing already that it's a man, and so on. So what's the probability that a person is left-handed given that they're a man? Which numbers am I going to use on this table here, which I will now make a slightly different color so we can see it better. Whoops, did I type it wrong? Number 2. Write a similar equation for 9.6% of females are left-handed. So that's what this one is. The probability of being left-handed given that you're a female. Let's actually solve it too. So switch from male to female. Here's the left-handed females. what am I dividing by?
The total number of females.
Total numbers, right? Given that you're a female, this is the whole in part over whole of desired over total. Then this is the part. So I'm going to say equals this one divided by that one, and they get 9.6%. That's what we were told before, so yay, we did it right. Number 3, would you say gender and handedness are independent? Does one's gender affect the likelihood of being left or right-handed? If they were independent, what would we expect the percentage of males and females that are left-handed to be? Should I ask it again?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm getting the question 100% right, but if they were independent, wouldn't they be more equal numbers? Or
It didn't matter what gender you were for handedness, then these should be equal. So the fact that they're different, even if not by a lot, means that no, they are not independent. Okay, problem 4. Recall that if for independent events, the probability for one and the other happening is the product. Can we say that that's true? No, because they aren't independent. In general, if they're not independent, then we say the probability that A and B both happen is, starting at first in time, assume that A happens, and then assume that B happens given that A has already happened. At first, we get the first thing done, and then we look at the second given that the first one happened. So we would write that in this case as the probability of being male and left-handed is the probability that you are both, that you're left-handed given you're male, and times the probability you were male to start with. We can find out what that actually is. Scoot that over. So what's the chance that you are left-handed given that you're male? So left-handed is the part, the ones we are desired probability, and the total is all the men. What's the chance that you are male to start with? That's the males out of the total population. This one divided by that one. Now we get a number of about 5%, 6%. And that makes sense. If 11% of the men are left-handed, but men are only half the people, then we expect the number to be about half. That's not surprising. Similarly, if you're female and left-handed, you'd take the probability that you are left-handed, given that you're female, and multiply that by the probability you were female to start with, so females out of the entire US population. We're out of time. If you want to keep going, then the next tab over shows you the answer key. You're welcome to try and see if you understand it. without getting into politics, then gender dysphoria is when people are born and biologically they have body chemistry that doesn't match their gender. And we're not talking anything now about politics and what should happen with sports or things. This is just something that happens to people, but not very many. Somewhere between 5 tenths, hundredths, thousandths of a percent, or 14 thousandths of a percent. So Oregon has about 700,000 boys of age 14 years or younger. Assuming it's 14 thousandths of a percent, how many of them have gender dysphoria and how many are left-handed? And this is interesting because you're much more likely to be left-handed if you have gender dysphoria. Studies have linked first trimester intrauterine testosterone to both things. So they are biologically related. So if you wanted to practice more with conditional probability, you could, and then you can check your answer on the next page. If you don't, that's okay either. My boy's best friend when they were little was someone with extreme gender dysphoria. You would never think this child was anything but a normal girl from watching her do anything at all. So okay, end of this. I see in chat people talking about study session tonight at 10. Tomorrow morning, somebody wants something, suggest a time tomorrow morning. We always have Saturday at 9 p.m. We actually had a bunch of people there last Saturday.
So, I was wondering for sometime tomorrow, because I work tonight, so I wouldn't be able to make the Saturday or tomorrow because I work super late. And I'm falling pretty far behind. I'm trying to work on the week 8 homework right now. And I'm very confused. And I need a lot of help. So I was wondering when.
I'll certainly be there tomorrow morning, but it's always good to have more people too. Anyone else want to join Kristen and I tomorrow morning? And if so, shout out a time because Kristen hasn't been picky yet. Or she could be picky.
What time works best for you on Thursday?
Let me double check my main calendar just in case it's an unusual day and I'm not realizing. No, I have nothing unusual till 1 o'clock tomorrow. So you pick.
Okay, I can do like an 11 a.m.
11 a.m. Okay. Anyone need something other than these three? Holler now.
Maybe Saturday morning.
Anyone want to do Saturday morning too?
10.
Someone said sure. Okay.
Saturday morning at 10 works for me.
Okay, I'll put all of these in the after class email once the video is done processing.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good few hours if I'll see you in the morning, or a few days if I see you Saturday.
Thank you.
Thanks.